Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the actress Zoe Saldana and her recent quote unquote apology about her playing the legend, I should say, Nina Simone. And I actually started looking up Nina Simone a little bit in depth recently because of the not only because of the controversy surrounding that movie, but also because, I heard the songs, Southern Trees Have Strange Fruit, all that stuff. And she did kind of like a lot of blues and stuff. And, the whole My Skin is Black song. And I even saw like old footage of Nina. And a lot of people were very upset at the time of the movie that Zoe Saldana played Nina Simone. Now, Zoe Saldana came on live being interviewed by someone in terms of with all that's going on right now, and with people apparently, backing down and stepping down from their roles. White voice actors are stepping down from their roles as people of color voice actors. And to be honest, I'm kind of cool with it, but I also do think it's what's the point of doing it because we've gotten so used to them voicing the characters, it kind of doesn't matter to us. But aside from that, I have to say, in terms of Zoe Saldana, I am not buying this so-called apology. Maybe it had to take for her to receive all the backlash and again for that movie to flop and for people to, didn't go to not go and watch it just to, just so she could see that the error of her ways is a quote unquote error of her ways. And Lovely T actually talked about that. And honestly, I've been feeling a way about Zoe Saldana ever since that. And another YouTuber did a video on this. Actually, there was a lot of YouTubers who did a video on that, but one particular YouTuber who I've seen basically talked about how that there are people, whether they identify as people of color, who are lighter skinned, biracial, mixed, or may not fully identify as black, will definitely take roles that are supposed to be or meant to be for unambiguous, phenotypically black and dark skinned black characters and black people. And Lovely T also mentioned that they would have never done this to their white characters. Now, even if they had, it probably would have, never been a controversy like this. It probably would have never still gone to production unless it was Michael Jackson. But I noticed they really like to do this to black women. And this is one of the reasons we are the most disrespected. One, people already don't care about us. But two, sometimes we also need to push for that representation. And this is what I don't like about, especially black women or dark and brown skinned black women who kind of co-sign or side with this because, we're being too passive here. And what I find funny is that, and what this YouTuber mentioned was, you still took the opportunity. You still took the job. You still took the role. So you can say, oh, and like Lovely T said, you didn't give back the money. You took the money, you took the opportunity, and you took the role. So even when this role was meant for dark skin or black people, you still take the role. And then, and another thing too, this is one of the reasons why we and everybody shouldn't necessarily one drop certain people to death, whether they're half, especially if they're a little bit more white passing. We shouldn't one drop people to death. But I notice this community also likes to pick and choose when to do that. But that's beside the point, and that's not the point of this video. But I will say this. I feel like they never do this to white characters. Just like how you see that controversy with Halle Bailey playing Ariel, even if not necessarily the race has anything to do with the character, though we see the character as white in the animated film, you can see how they won't let us be, the face or the representation of them, but they can always feel like they can dictate. And I've seen this, just like I said in my Princess and the Frog video. This is kind of how we like sabotage our own image and representation. When I see there are a few other dark skinned and brown skinned black girls, probably under the age of 18 and 15 and whatnot, the 10-year-olds. These are dark and brown skinned black girls who are saying that the dark skinned Tiana should be played by a light brown or a mixed or a biracial person because, they're the 1% black, right? So, or they look black or they're part black. So they are right for this role. They always do this. And this is why I said, I understand to a certain extent why there are some people, because as a Disney fan, I would want Ariel to be played in a way by the person I see her as in the animated film. But my thing is, I think, I don't want to say this, but I kind of have to say it. In some cases, this may be some level of, this is how it feels. This is a taste of your own medicine. And even Chrissy kind of pointed this out. What if Halle Bailey was a dark-skinned woman? Imagine if she was a dark-skinned woman. And like I mentioned in that video, it seems like, why does it not take away from the storyline and the source material to have Lizzo play Ursula, but it takes away from the source material to have Halle play Ariel? But again, beside the point. But in terms of Zoe Saldana's apology, I don't buy it. I personally believe that she's only apologizing now because, it backfired, and hell, all these celebrities are in their houses and they have nothing to do. So now everybody has time to look back. Everybody has time to, apologize. And because any other day they don't have the time to do that. But now that we're bored and all in quarantine, now all of a sudden everybody has the time to, say, like Lovely T says, here comes the tiny violin. But I honestly do not necessarily buy her apology, because you still took it. And to be honest, I really felt like she thought, and this was a great point that someone in her comment section on Lovely T's page said, that she probably thought that if she were to go up for this role, this is a somewhat biopic. This was, this was a biopic, or should have been a biopic, and this was about someone like Nina Simone. So she thought she was going to go and get this role and snag an Oscar and nab an Oscar like Jamie Foxx did with Ray. But the difference between Zoe Saldana and Jamie Foxx with Ray is that I do believe that this Ray Charles documentary, this Ray Charles biopic, was definitely planned. It was probably written down and strategically planned and put down on pen and paper. Jamie Foxx actually dedicated himself to that role. I even heard something like he glued his eyes shut or he blindfolded himself while playing the piano. Jamie Foxx is a talented singer, musician, and actor, and he was actually the right person for the role. I'm not sure if Ray Charles actually handpicked him for the role, but either way, when I watched the movie Ray, down to the T, I felt like I was not watching Jamie Foxx. I felt as if I was watching Ray Charles himself. So the difference between a Zoe Saldana and a Ray Charles, I think that movie was well put together. And notice this. This is how you know Black men have privilege in this community. Even if there are people who try to intentionally, tarnish the legacy, but with a movie, when that white man tried to play Michael Jackson in a movie and that movie never came to fruition, thank God. It seems like there are so many people, they go harder for these Black men, especially when they're super legendary, like a Michael Jackson, out of the way not to go, even within the community, not to go disrespecting these men. But for the women, even when we speak up, it's like nobody cares until the backlash, which is why I'm so glad that when the Wreck-It Ralph 2 trailer came out, you had a lot of Black women and dark-skinned Black women, even Anika Nani Rose, the voice of Tiana herself, came out and in droves and said, you are practically whitewashing Tiana. Her curls are looser, her nose is slimmer, her skin looks lighter. So it's like, even when we get our first and only dark-skinned, unambiguously Black princess, and this is not to shame. This is not to, differentiate or separate ourselves from, our other Black brothers and sisters. We get it. We come in all shades. But Tiana is not the biracial or lighter skinned woman. That's just what it is. And we don't often get a lot of positive, or at least mainstream positive dark skin, unambiguous with Black women. We don't always see us in roles as the princess. And even if we do, they're not on the scale of something like a Disney. And to be honest, I kind of think that The Princess and the Frog is a little bit underrated. It's very underrated, actually. And that's how I feel about that, which is why if there was a live action to come out, the casting has to be right. It has to be a darker skinned or dark brown skinned, unambiguously the Black woman who's young enough or who looks young enough to play the part. So I don't want to hear people saying get Anika Nani Rose, who probably by this movie comes out will be 60. And again, I know Black don't crack, but don't push it, okay? Because by that logic, I guarantee some people are going to say Cicely Tyson should play Tiana, and I know that's unrealistic. So let's not push it here. I will say this is just my opinion. I believe either Ryan Destiny, Normani, maybe Kiki Palmer. Some people said Aja Naomi King should play her. But I say this, if she just slims down a bit, if this person just slims down a bit, and still looks good enough, still looks young enough, and we've seen this person as a princess, I think maybe Brandy could play Tiana. That is just if that's just the last resort. But come on now. I feel like they always try to disrespect and ruin the dark-skinned black woman's role, or just black woman roles in general, and other people of color roles. Like they do that. They whitewash, they lightwash. Now, going back to the Michael Jackson movie, I heard it wasn't a biopic. I heard it was like a joke movie. I think it had something to do like around like 9/11. Where Michael Jackson and someone were actually going to cross the border or something like that. Fill me in on what exactly happened. I'm a little bit vague on that. But I heard it was going to be a joke movie. That's what I found out. But still, I even heard Michael Jackson said, hey, he didn't want a white man playing him. And we know that Michael Jackson had vitiligo, and in his later years, Michael Jackson had a lot of features that would be considered white. And to be honest, I don't think Michael Jackson had self-hate because he just automatically just hated himself. I think it's that father of theirs. And this is no offense to the Jackson family or anyone, but from what the public have heard about the father being very abusive towards the kids, I think it's really that father of them that's why they have low self-esteem, or that's why Michael may have had low self-esteem. Now, granted, Michael did have vitiligo, and he was actually tanning and putting on makeup to cover himself, and I heard that vitiligo started on his hand as to why he started, wearing the glove, and he was covering up. So that's just a side note on Michael Jackson. But still, back to Zoe Saldana. I don't buy this apology. I like you as Gamora, and I feel like in a way you could have just kind of stayed in your lane. Now, in terms of like Hollywood, I think Hollywood does this a lot to black characters, black people, which is why I am an advocate for us starting and owning our own. But I also do think, hell, even when we start and own our own and write our own, we drop the ball. So when I hear people on the internet saying, black people, this is why we got to start our own and create our own movies and cast our own and get it right, and sometimes we even get it wrong. I mean, hell, look at it, especially with other people of color. Look at M. Night Shyamalan. I mean, when he came out with the Last Airbender, this is an Indian man or an Asian man, and this whole movie and this whole show franchise of Avatar: The Last Airbender is based off of Asian culture, and he gets it wrong. He gets the casting wrong and everything wrong about it. So sometimes even when we people of color have the creative opportunity or the creative control to do things, we drop the ball. So I don't think just us owning and starting our own is just going to solve it. We have to do it right. But I will say this. Hollywood, whether it be white or black Hollywood, is always prone and is always, in a way, deliberately sabotaging and not casting us in the right roles, or not giving us good storylines especially as brown and dark skinned black women and people in general. But I also do think that, when we're saying, like Chrissy said, we're saying, oh, the Jodie Turner-Smiths of the world need to choose better roles and, shouldn't have gone up for, roles like Queen and Queenland Slim. But then she's like, hey, what acting positions are we getting? Same thing with Zoe Saldana. What other, opportunities are going to be given to her? I'm not saying none, but at the same time, some people are like, okay, well, I don't know what else I'm going to get. Let me take this one. And I, too, to be honest, I just don't feel bad for her too much, because you still took the role that should have been meant for a darker skinned woman. And that's what I don't like about the lies of Hollywood, that they say, well, we just can't find another person to fit this role, so we just went with the last resort. And another thing too, especially when people are starting their little thing, their projects, some people want to go with big names to sell the project, because when you have a recognizable face on your movie or whatnot, they feel like that can sell. And we've seen time and time again that star-studded A-list cast does not a good movie always make, or a good project always make. So it's best to go with the right cast, because let's just be honest, I'll use things like, When they see us, that's the first thing that came to mind. You had people who may have started off in smaller stuff or may have not been too well known to the public to a certain degree. And because they were in that movie and how great the writing and directing and the storyline and the cinematography and everything was in that film, you have now people more so knowing their names. So that is a good thing. So I feel like some people, especially with Hollywood, like with Gem and the Holograms and with The Last Airbender and with the Nina Simone movie, they want to take the easy and the quick way out. And I feel like because we live in a microwave society, like Lovely T says, people don't really necessarily want to put in the work and research, And I think with When They See Us, it took a couple of years before the film actually came out. And it was so good. It gets nominated for 16 Emmys. It was the most streamed on Netflix when it came out. So that's how you know that time and actually dedication can actually be a good thing. And speaking of the Nina Simone movie, it seems that people are calling not only for a remake, but they're calling for Michaela Cole, who was on the show Chewing Gum, and she has her own show called I May Destroy You. I think it's on HBO Max. I think it's on HBO Max. I've yet to see it, but it looks interesting. So that's how you go to show. That goes to show that, the proper casting, especially for unambiguously dark-skinned Black women who are not being called, for the lesser roles. I heard this happens in Hollywood where you'll have a role and they want a dark-skinned actress, but they'll describe the type that they're looking for in a negative way, and they'll attribute it to more Afrocentric, darker skin, Black people, Black features, and things like that. So I also think it's things like that in the smallest instance, that is what is necessary to change. Not just, okay, you just put this dark-skinned woman in a lead role, but put her in a positive lead role. Put her in a role where it's not about, a white savior thing. Put her in a role where, this is what I love about How to Get Away with Murder, because Annalise Keating, played by Viola Davis, had moral ambiguity and she was more three-dimensional. And that's why I think her character I feel like Viola Davis well deserved that Emmy for How to Get Away with Murder. There was just, she was more than just, the Black woman with problems. There was moral ambiguity and three dimension to her character, and that's what we need to see more of in Hollywood with especially dark-skinned Black women. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I wasn't too long. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.